The Valkyrie Empire stretched across 17 star systems. But Queen Zixara had never felt more helpless. She stood before the holographic display in her private chambers aboard the diplomatic station, watching 3 small forms lying motionless in their incubation pods. Her triplets born too early, their neural pathways underdeveloped, their small bodies paralyzed from the neck down. The finest physicians in the empire had examined them. The prognosis was always the same, stable, but unresponsive. They could breathe, their hearts beat, but they could not move, could not play, could not experience the world that was their birthright. Zixara's fur, normally a proud silver blue, had dulled with worry. Her retractable claws unconsciously extended and retracted as she watched the monitor's cameras she had installed in the medical bay so she could observe them during the endless diplomatic sessions that demanded her presence. Even now, she should have been negotiating trade routes, but her heart remained with those 3 small lives. "Your Majesty," her aide whispered at the door, "the human delegation is waiting. Tell them I will be delayed," Zixara said, her voice carrying the harmonic purr of her species, though now it was fractured with pain. Humans, the newest species to petition for membership in the Galactic Council. They were strange creatures, soft-skinned, bizarrely symmetrical, and peculiarly persistent. Their janitor had been assigned to clean the medical bay. She'd barely noticed him. Max wiped down another surface in the medical bay, his cleaning cart squeaking slightly on the polished floor. 3 months he'd been working this job, and 3 months he'd watched the same heartbreaking scene. 3 tiny aliens, they looked like a cross between cats and something from a fever dream, lying perfectly still in their high-tech cribs. He'd asked about them once. The Valkyrie medical staff had explained in clinical terms: paralyzed, minimal brain activity beyond autonomic functions, no hope of recovery. Max had nodded and gone back to mopping, but he couldn't stop thinking about them. He'd been a physical therapy tech before signing up for the diplomatic corps. He'd worked with kids, human kids who'd been told they'd never walk, never move, never have normal lives, and he'd seen what determination, creativity, and plain old human stubbornness could do. The cameras watched him. He knew the Queen observed her children constantly. He'd seen her once, standing in the doorway, her alien features twisted in a grief he recognized despite the differences in their biology. Max made his decision. He started small. During his cleaning rounds, he'd gently manipulate the triplets' tiny limbs carefully, so carefully, moving them through basic ranges of motion. The medical staff never said anything. To them, he was just the human janitor, too insignificant to matter. But Max had studied the Valkyrie physiology database. He'd spent his off hours reading everything he could about their neural development, and he'd noticed something the doctors hadn't: tiny muscle twitches in response to certain stimuli. He brought in a small speaker, playing soft sounds at varying frequencies. Valkyrie hearing was different from humans, more sensitive to certain ranges. He experimented, watching for responses. On the 47th day, the smallest triplet's ear flicked. Zixara nearly dropped her datapad when she saw it on the monitor. The human janitor Max, his name was Max, was doing something to her children. Her first instinct was rage. How dare he touch them? But then she watched more carefully. He was moving their limbs gently, systematically. He was playing sounds, and he was talking to them, his translator converting his words into something approximating Valkyrie. Though his accent was atrocious. "Come on, little one," he was saying to the smallest. "I saw that ear move yesterday. Let's see if we can do it again." He played a tone. The ear flicked. Zixara's breath caught in her throat. She confronted him the next day, materializing in the medical bay with 2 guards flanking her. Max looked up from where he was working with the middle triplet, completely unafraid. "Your Majesty," he said, straightening. "I was hoping we could talk." "You have been touching my children without permission," Zixara said, her voice cold. "Yes, ma'am. Explain yourself." Max gestured to the monitors showing the triplets' neural activity. "Your doctors diagnosed paralysis based on your species' normal development patterns. But humans have dealt with similar conditions for thousands of years. We've learned that neural pathways can be rebuilt, especially in infants. It requires stimulation, constant, varied, persistent stimulation." He pulled up a holographic display showing charts and data. I've been documenting everything. Look at the neural activity from 3 weeks ago versus now. They're responding. Slowly, but they're responding. Zixara stared at the data. The increases were minimal, but they were there. Your medical credentials? Physical therapy technician, 3rd class, specialized in pediatric neurological rehabilitation. He met her eyes without flinching. I know I overstepped, but I couldn't watch them just lie there when I knew there was a chance. The Queen moved to the nearest pod, looking down at her smallest daughter. As she watched, Max played a specific frequency, and the tiny ear flicked again. Show me. Zixara commanded. Show me everything you've been doing. 6 months later, Margot took her first step. She was the middle triplet, and she'd always been the most responsive to Max's therapy. The medical bay had been transformed no longer a sterile observation room, but a rehabilitation center filled with equipment Max had either requisitioned or built himself. Zixara was there, of course. She was always there now, having delegated most of her duties to others. She'd learned the human techniques herself, working alongside Max every day. Margot wobbled on shaky legs, her tiny claws extended for balance. She took one step, then another, and then collapsed into her mother's arms. Zixara caught her, tears streaming down her furred face, a very non-Valkyrie display of emotion that she no longer bothered to hide. You did it, baby girl, Max said, grinning. You did it. The other two triplets were progressing more slowly, but they were progressing. They could move their heads now, could reach for objects, could vocalize. The Valkyrie medical establishment had been shocked. Papers were being written. Max had been offered positions at 3 different research hospitals. He'd turned them all down. He still had a medical bay to clean, and 3 kids who needed their therapy sessions. Zixara looked at the humanness, unremarkable member of an unremarkable species who had refused to accept the impossible the Galactic Council was concerned about. Humanity's petition for membership, she said quietly. They worried your species was too young, too reckless, too stubborn. Max raised an eyebrow. And now, the Queen smiled, a baring of fangs that, in Valkyrie culture, meant affection and respect. Now I will tell them that human stubbornness is exactly what the galaxy needs. Margot took another step, stronger this time, and Max laughed, a sound of pure joy that transcended species boundaries. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their ships. It was their refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible, and their willingness to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. That was very human indeed.